For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it, but only by sheer accident.
Rolling and go.
Hey, welcome to 30-odd minutes, a very special edition. I'm your host, Jeff Belanger. It's great to be back with you. We're on a bit of a hiatus this month, taking off some live shows, but we wanted to put something out there. Now, a couple of years ago, director Andy White and I, are you there, Andy? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Hey, there
Hi.
you are. There's your head, pretty dark.
Yeah, I go.
Good to see you, Andy. Good to see you. A couple of years ago, Andy and I got together and started working on some projects of a paranormal nature. And what we wanted to do tonight was kind of bring those back. It's a show we called Paranormal Journeys, although the first one I think we called Paranormal Excursions. This was 2 years ago, a couple of short pieces from haunted places all around. And we're going to show them here on tonight's episode. I thought it'd be fun to bring those out again. I want to remind you, you can see this episode, you can see all our past episodes at 30oddminutes.com. We welcome all your emails at info@30oddminutes.com. You can always email us your guest suggestions, your show ideas, your feedback, all that kind of fun stuff. We love to hear from you guys. No chat room, no live chat room in this show, but we are going to always welcome your emails. So, Paranormal Journeys. The idea was I get to go to some pretty cool places, and sometimes I get access after hours. And let's go in there with cameras. Let's take you behind the scenes of some of these famous haunts, infamous haunts, and talk to the witnesses and learn about some of the history. That was the whole idea behind the show. And we did that. Now, here's something else that we learned, and actually this was the prelude to 30-odd minutes. We learned that it was an awful lot of work. It was an awful lot of work filming these things, and it was a lot of work editing. We would spend days in here editing this thing down, and they would come out to like 7 or 8 minutes long each. And we said, boy, if we were going to do a regular half-hour show, this would be pretty tough. So here's a little secret. Part of the method behind the madness of 30-odd minutes is that the idea was we wanted to do it all live in one take straight through and not have to spend days editing. So we developed this format, which we're pretty pleased with. And we've gotten great feedback from lots of you out there, and we do appreciate that. So let's take a look at some of these things that we've done in the past. This first one, we're going to go to a place called Stone's Public House in Ashland, Massachusetts. This is a place that I've always been fond of because it's a great old haunt, and it's a place that I've been able to look after for years. And what I mean by look after is as a folklorist, as a legend tripper, as a guy that writes about ghost stuff, I've been able to check in again and again because I live not too far away. So I've seen three different owners now in the time that I've been looking into it. I've heard from countless people that have had ghost experiences there, and so this is a spot that I've gotten to know a lot about. I know the employees, the staff, and some of the locals who've claimed to experience things there. So let's check this first one out. This is the first show we ever did of Paranormal Journeys. And on a personal note, it's kind of funny, this was about 40 pounds ago for me. So they say the camera adds 10 pounds. No, it adds about 40. So here's a wider Jeff from a few years ago at Stone's Public House. Check this out. Hi, welcome to Paranormal Excursions. I'm your host, Jeff Belanger, and today we're at one of the most famous haunts in Massachusetts, Stone's Public House in Ashland. Built in 1832 by Captain John Stone, he got a tip that the railroad was going to be coming through town, running from Boston to Albany, and he knew this would be a great spot to build an inn. Little did he know that the train that would just be a few yards from his inn would one day play a role in the ghost that would haunt his now famous inn. So who's haunting this building? Why are they here? We're going to talk to staff, we'll talk to some eyewitnesses, and we'll speak to a paranormal investigator who's taken a look around inside. Let's go check it out. The first tragic event to hit Stone's Inn took place during a card game just a few years after the building opened for business. A traveling salesman from New York named Michael McPherson was visiting the inn and got involved in a game with John Stone and some Ashland locals. Things turned ugly when accusations of cheating came up. Stone took out his pistol and hit Michael McPherson over the head, intending just to knock him out, but the blow proved deadly, and now they had a body on their hands. Some people believe that Stone and his friends buried Michael McPherson down here in the basement of the inn. As you can see, it's a dirt floor. It's theoretically possible, but it wouldn't make much sense considering there are acres of woods around here that Stone was the owner of. But the dirt floor isn't the only mystery of this basement. Back in the 1980s, when they broke through the wall to put in city water and sewer, they found a hidden room. Let's take a look. So when workers broke through this wall, they found a hidden room. Inside was a cot, an old blanket, and a barrel. We think this may have been a stop on the Underground Railroad, but the Underground Railroad ran two ways. There were certainly people trying to get black slaves up to freedom, but there are others who were capturing free black people in the North and selling them back into slavery in the South. We're not sure. Also, during a darker time period back in the 1800s, this was also a house of ill repute where the prostitutes would bring their customers. And it was unearthed back in the 1980s when they brought in the pipes for the city water. Take a look. Some believe that a few of the slaves who took refuge here may still be haunting the building, but are they alone? That's cool. The most tragic event that took place here happened to 10-year-old Mary Jane Smith, who, according to town records, was killed by car on June 11, 1862. In 1862, that would have been a rail car. She was carried to the nearest building, Johnstone's Inn, where staff tried to help her, but it was too late. Young Mary Smith died. Back in 2002, the first time I looked into the ghost of Stone's Public House, I spoke to the owner at the time, Marty Northover. She told me about a cursed dress, one of the most intriguing legends attached to this building. It's believed, possibly, maybe, that this was the dress of Mary J. Smith herself. And I was told it's in the attic. It's old, it's stained. We're here with Mark Patterson, who's worked at Stone's Public House for over 4 years. And Mark, what have you heard about the ghosts here?
Well, one story I heard, this lady Janet used to work here in the past. She found a dress upstairs in the attic. Little girl's dress and had bloodstains on it. Took it home, and that night she heard running up down the stairs and loud banging around. Called the owner and said, I brought this dress home. She was like, bring the dress back, you shouldn't really take things out of the building. It's not good to take things out of the building. Took the dress back here, put it back upstairs where it belonged, and nothing else. The house was quiet since then.
Right. Okay, we're here with Dave Ritalik. Dave is a paranormal investigator with Haunted Happenings, and he had the opportunity to spend an overnight here and do an investigation at Stone's Public House. So Dave, what did you find when you did your investigation?
Actually, Jeff, it was pretty cool. They gave us free run of the building from 8 at night till 4 in the morning, and we didn't come across anything per se, spot any ghostly apparitions hanging out the window or people banging on the doors like they say. But we did find there's some real interesting anomalies. In our photos, we actually have a couple of what we would call ghost orbs that were right on the wall. It was actually incredible to see. And then we have a couple of pictures of some more spirit activity going upstairs in the 3rd floor. This floor, we got some EMF, electromagnetic field readings in this room itself. And like I said, a lot of just different things on photo and EVP is what we recorded.
Right, right. Excellent. And so who do you think might be haunting this room in particular?
This room in particular, as the story goes, is that there was a little girl that was killed by a train, and they ran her in here, and she subsequently died while she was in here. And
the customers outside one afternoon in the patio came in an hour or so later and went to the bartender and asked her, upstairs, what's going on? Is like a playground upstairs? She saw kids running up and down from the windows, kind of in distress, acting crazy, running around. So there's been, stuff happens here. I mean, people do see things, and I can't say I haven't seen anything personally, but I do believe people wouldn't make things up. So
now, I asked back in 2002, can we go up there and take a look at the dress? And she said, no way, it's too dangerous. But today, we actually have special permission to go up there and take a look. Let's see if it's still there. Think it's dangerous? Here we are in the attic. No wonder they don't want people coming up here. That's the floor you're looking through. When we got up to the attic, just about the only thing up here besides a few pieces of debris is this very old, very stained dress. Is this the cursed dress of Mary J. Smith? Maybe. Are these the stains of blood or something else? We're going to leave it right where we found it. Today, Johnstone's Inn no longer takes overnight guests. Not the living kind, anyway. But it is a place to find good food and spirits.
Thanks for joining us on Paranormal Excursions. We'll see you next time.
After, before, after. Thank you very much. Stone's Public House, we love that haunt locally here. It's Andy White. Andy actually has been known to work there on occasion, and people are still talking about it, huh, Andy? Yes, they
Yeah, they are.
There they are. Yeah, people still have seen that clip and come in and ask about it. It's one of those, the ghost sightings still go on. I was getting on an airplane sometime last year, and it was funny. I was sitting next to someone getting on the plane in Boston, and, just sit down next to the person next to you and say, hey, where are you from? And say, oh, Ashland. I said, oh, yeah, Ashland. I said, have you heard of Stone's Public House? She said, yeah, did you know it's haunted? I said, you don't say. And she said that her mother had actually seen the little girl up in those windows. She didn't know who I was or anything like that. She just offered that information. So it's interesting that the sightings still go on at a place like Stone's Public House. Great haunt, great history, and it's one of these places where you walk inside and you're almost stepping back in time, which I think plays a role in the ghost sightings. Now, speaking of stepping back in time, another site of a murder in Massachusetts, the Lizzie Borden House in Fall River. This is the site, of course, you remember the nursery rhyme, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. Well, we'll hear more of that. And actually, if you watch this next clip, you're also going to recognize an oddball or two in the video. Let's check out Lizzie Borden House in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to another episode of Paranormal Journeys. Today we're taking you to the site of a double murder, a murder that occurred over 100 years ago. The case is still unsolved today. We're in Fall River, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Lizzie Borden House. Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks, and when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. It's a popular children's rhyme. Lots of New England kids know it, but it's also a bit of an exaggeration. Mrs. Borden was killed with 18 blows to the head. Mr. Borden was killed with 11. What we're going to do is take you through the house. We'll show you the crime scene. We'll recreate some of the events that took place here, and we'll talk to some paranormal investigators who have looked into the hauntings here and see what they've found.
On the morning of August 4th, 1892, it was hot and sticky in Fall River. Temperatures reached over 100 degrees. The Borden family was feeling the heat at their home at 92 2nd Street. That morning, 32-year-old Lizzie was here, as was her 70-year-old father, Fall River business mogul Andrew Borden. Lizzie's 64-year-old stepmother Abby was here, as was Bridget Sullivan, whom the Bordens referred to as Maggie because that was the name of their previous maid, the Irish immigrant domestic worker who lived in the house and worked for the Bordens.
It was 11 a.m. on that fateful day that Andrew Borden came into this room to take a nap. He sat down on the couch just like this one to rest, put his head back, went to sleep, and of course never woke up. God, I'm getting a splitting headache. Just a few minutes after Mr. Borden was killed downstairs, the murderer ascended the staircase, came into here, the guest room, and hacked Mrs. Abby Borden to death right here where I'm standing. It would seem from the evidence that the Bordens knew their killers. There was no sign of struggle, no break-in, nothing stolen. The person knew their way around the house, and there were 2 dead bodies. What would ensue was the trial of the century. All signs pointed to Lizzie. But did she do it? So did Lizzie do it? They did find an axe handle down in the basement. And another oddity, that day Lizzie burned one of her dresses. She claimed she got paint on it, so she burned it in the oven. Was the paint really blood? We'll never know for sure. Let's check out the basement. It was down here in the basement that investigators found an axe head that they believe was the murder weapon. It was found right on the other side of this brick wall. Now, the jury heard all the evidence. They deliberated for only 1 hour before reaching a not guilty verdict. It was the trial of the century back then. No one could believe how Lizzie could get away with this. She took the Bordens' money, she moved out of here, and she bought the Maplecroft mansion uptown, definitely moving on up. So, with all the hubbub here, with all this activity, is the Lizzie Borden mansion haunted today? Tim Weisberg of Spooky South Coast. Tim's had the opportunity to spend a lot of time here in the Lizzie Borden house. Got some really interesting EVP while he was in here last time. Tim, maybe you could start with just explaining what is EVP.
Well, EVP is electronic voice phenomena. It's where disembodied sounds will imprint themselves on a mechanical device, an electronic device. And we use digital up here a lot because you don't get the double exposure that a tape can give you. So we get some pretty clear stuff, and we know when it's talking to us.
Right, and what room are we in right now?
This is the Hosea Knowlton room. All the rooms here are named after people that figure into the case, and he was one of the prosecutors involved in the case. And this room was originally part of the guest space that was up here on the 3rd floor. Bridget's room was down the hall, and this would be where some people might come if they were staying, or they had some attic space around here too. So there was no murder here per se, but there seems to be a lot of activity here.
Interesting. And so what is the EVP that you capture?
Well, we were working with a group called Whaling City Ghosts, and their investigator was recording the audio while I was on the bed. We've had success here getting something to lift up people's legs. So we were doing that, and I asked, can you lift up my legs again? And it gave me something that was a little bit nasty. It said, why don't you go yourself?
Right. Let's hear it. We're here with Matt Moniz, also of Spooky South Coast. Matt's had the opportunity to investigate the Borden house on numerous occasions. Matt, what did you encounter in this room?
I've encountered several things. One of the most prominent things I had happen was the camera that I had in here move. I had the camera mounted right here on top of this chest. It was focused on the bed area. It moved first at a 45-degree angle. I had a member of Whaling City Ghosts reset the camera back, tested to see whether stepping on the wire would cause it to move. That turned out to be negative. After she was done testing that, the camera then turned 90 degrees to face where she was standing. Now, as you can see, there's not much room to hide behind here.
Right.
It's not like somebody was behind the camera moving it. The only people in the room were investigators, the house psychic, and a reporter for a local magazine who witnessed everything and documented it as well. I was viewing the video outside the room and can verify that from where the rest of the wires were, nobody was touching them. But that was just the camera. I've seen legs being lifted on the bed by unseen forces. I've heard audible noises along with several other individuals in the room. Whispers, voices, grunts and growls, sound of children laughing and playing, plus a couple of other little odd things moving about here and there. You hear it, but you don't see it type of thing.
Right.
It's a pretty active room
Yeah.
compared to the rest of the house.
One of the things we're here with Christopher Balzano of Massachusetts Paranormal Crossroads, here in the dining room of the Borden house, where Chris once attended a seance. Chris, can you tell us about what you experienced here?
Sure. In November of '05, I attended a seance here conducted by the psychic Jackie Barrett. And during that seance, she's a little bit different than other psychics who kind of do that thing. She invited the spirit to not enter her, but to enter someone else within the room. And there was someone sitting in the corner here who kind of volunteered, although it's questionable whether they volunteered or whether they were drafted. And the spirit of Bridget, who was the maid, although she hated the word maid and she wanted housekeeper to be said instead, supposedly came into her. And although she wouldn't say anything to the audience or to the people in the room, she did visibly change her appearance. And I've got pictures of her after the ceremony and during it. It looks like two different women. And she got very, very angry at the people that were in the room, especially Jackie. And I remember feeling that at any moment she was just going to like jump out and do something violent. So.
While filming this episode of Paranormal Journeys, we did encounter an unexplainable event. There were only 4 of us in the house that night, and while we were all in the basement, we heard the distinct voice of a young person above us in the kitchen. We all ran upstairs because we thought someone had just broken into the house, but there was no one there.
In a century since the murder occurred, Though the case is still unsolved, this legend won't be forgotten anytime soon. Today, the Borden House is a popular bed and breakfast and a place to tour. It's kind of a living museum. It's a step into the past when you walk into this house. People today are still having experiences all the time, all over the building. It's an important place. It's a case to remember, and it's part of the fabric of New England. For Paranormal Journeys, I'm Jeff Belanger.
Hey, there was another one. Hooray, hooray. Golf clap, golf clap. Yeah, Lizzie Borden House, that's a place that still intrigues us. And one of the, as I mentioned during that segment, I've only had a few personal paranormal experiences in my entire life and going into all kinds of creepy places. And that was one of them. That was one of those places where we actually heard something and others heard it as well, which helped validate that. It's an incredible feeling when something happens. You know, you hear those footsteps and you say, well, the doors were locked, everything was secure. If not a ghost, then what? Then what was it? So we've seen 2 Massachusetts locations, which was great. That's where we're from here. So that's representing hometown. But at the same time, there are haunts and interesting locales all over the world. In this next segment, I was invited out to a conference in Tombstone, Arizona. This is the Wild West, and I wanted to produce something while I was out there. That was the whole idea behind these segments, is that while I'm going someplace interesting, I want to be able to film and bring it back. So this next one, we're going to go to Tombstone, Arizona, and meet the Wild West, the ghosts of the Wild West. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to Paranormal Journeys. Today we're coming to you from the town that's too tough to die. We're standing where legends once walked. We're talking about Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday. We're in a town whose name is as ominous as the many ghostly legends that have sprung up all over town. Welcome to the Old West. Welcome to Tombstone, Arizona.
Back in 1877, a prospector named Ed Shefflin left nearby Camp Huachuca looking for riches. His friends told him that he'd find his tombstone before he struck silver. When Shefflin hit a vein of silver, he named his claim Tombstone. A camp and then a town popped up almost overnight. Saloons, houses of ill repute, and hotels sprung up as fast as men could build them to accommodate the influx of miners. At its height, Tombstone boasted over 3,500 licensed prostitutes. The town was often lawless. Only the cunning and strong survived, and by some accounts, some may still be here.
This is Big Nose Kate's Saloon, originally the Grand Hotel here in Tombstone. It was built in 1879. Big Nose Kate was actually the first prostitute in town, and she was the girlfriend of Doc Holliday. One of the most famous ghost legends in town, when it was the Grand Hotel downstairs, a man they called the Swamper lived in a little rickety cot in the corner. He took care of the hotel in exchange for room and board, and he had a tunnel down into the mines below town that run all over the place. He'd go looking for silver and basically hid it away. Eventually he was murdered. He's one of the most prominent ghostly legends today. It's believed when you go downstairs in the basement and mention his name, you'll feel his presence. We're in the Birdcage Theater, built in the 1880s. This was a saloon, a brothel, it was a gambling house. It was all the things that made Tombstone the Great Wild West. It was the place where there were 26 murders over the period of 9 years, stabbings, gunfights, all kinds of other things going on. There's over 140 bullet holes in the ceiling from all the wild times that happened in here, where cabarets took place up on that stage. Gambling, fights, drinking. This is the Wild West. How do we investigate a small area like this?
Let's talk about the word investigate. That means to actually seek out and look for all possible explanations. You need to first know what people have experienced here. Otherwise, what you're doing is sitting around and having an experience, which is perfectly okay.
Right.
But it's not an investigation.
Right. Fair enough. And do you think equipment's necessary? Is it just human senses?
Well, equipment can help give you backup to the human senses, to the human experience. It gives correlations to something in the environment that people are picking up. It's a way of saying, look, you know, these people aren't crazy. There's something actually here.
Right.
We can't determine from the readings what that is, but bringing both together, the human experience and the other, is the most important thing.
Right on.
James Kelly, an investigator with Arizona Paranormal Investigations, was in the lower section of the Birdcage Theater December 27, 2007, collecting EVP with his digital voice recorder. This is what he captured.
How many soil doves live here?
On November 11, 2005, Daniel Baker and his wife were visiting the Birdcage Theater. Near the back of the museum, he snapped a picture of the famous Black Mariah hearse, the wagon used to bring Tombstone dead to the famous Boot Hill Cemetery. Notice the face that appeared in the reflection.
Leroy, can we start at the beginning? How long have you worked here?
18 years.
18 years? And, I mean, it's a beautiful historic museum now. It is, yeah. So much history here. When did you first hear about it?
I came here in 1991 with KOA campgrounds.
Oh, okay.
Sent me here to work. There was a KOA campground here at that time. It's no longer a KOA. They sent me here, and I was traveling around the country at that time for KOAs, and I just decided to stay. I like Tombstone, so I've been here ever since.
Yeah, and given all the history here, I mean, you've heard of the haunted reputation, of course?
Of course, yeah.
Have you ever experienced something?
I have had a lot of experiences right here in this building.
Right.
And in the guest home behind this building, but I've never seen the ghosts here inside like the Taps did. But there's a lot of experiences. They're here. Definitely
Yeah.
here.
And who do you think it is?
I was totally non-believer when I first came here, but this building's made of me a believer.
Yeah, and who do you think is here?
Well, there's, like I said, 26 men that were killed here in this building. It's probably their spirits that are still here. It was such a fast, violent, rough town that people came here from the East Coast in the Civil War era and got killed here. They had nowhere to go, so they're still here.
Yeah, there's something in the air in Tombstone. This was the Wild West. This is where fortunes were won and lost. This is where legends once walked. An amazing place. One of the reasons we think a location may be haunted is because some event took place that left a mark there that can never be washed away. Something that we still pick up on today. That's definitely the case here in Tombstone. Between the Birdcage Theater, Big Nose Kate's, walking up and down Allen's, you're stepping back into history, and it's a place worth checking out for yourself. For Paranormal Journeys, I'm Jeff Belanger.
Isn't that amazing? That's one of those common themes that we hear about at haunted places all the time. Well, I was a skeptic, but then I saw and I believed. It's a certainly reasonable assumption for people to make. Well, you don't believe until you actually see something. Interesting side note on that Paranormal Journeys in Tombstone, my camera person was actually Amy Bruni, who's on the one of the regular cast members on Ghost Hunters now. So thank you, Amy, for doing that. That was a lot of fun. We were both at the same conference. And that's the kind of thing. That's the nature of the paranormal community. A lot of us know each other. We've been working together for years and help each other out on these projects. So it's been fun to kind of bring these things up again. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know about the haunts you want us to check out. You can email us at info@30oddminutes.com. You can visit our website. You can check out this episode online, past episodes. We want to hear from you. Andy White, thanks for indulging me in this. This was fun to get these things back out there again and take a look at the blast from the past. There's so much more to explore. We will never run out of topics here at 30 Odd Minutes, and that's what's so comforting. We want to cover all aspects of the paranormal. We want to hear from witnesses, people who believe they've captured some kind of evidence on tape. We want to hear from you. What do you think? How do you want to weigh in on this topic? The more we talk about it, the less weird it gets, the more we can bring something out there. That's been the idea right along. That's been everything I've been doing in my own paranormal career, in writings and working on this show. So thank you so much for watching this. It's been a pleasure to relive this, and until next time, everybody, stay odd.